Hello and welcome to uh, this presentation on the Southwest Michigan Research and Extension Center 2020 summer squash trials. My name is Ron Goldie. I am stationed at the Southwest Station, which is in the very southwest corner here of Michigan, just around Lake Michigan from Chicago. And this is a picture of the station here on the right, where many of the vegetable trials you see are in this area, the south side of the station. North side of the station is more fruit trials, peaches, apples, cherries, those kind of things. Uh, Southwest Michigan is known for its fresh vegetable production. The main crops that we grow here are fresh market tomatoes, bell peppers and specialty peppers, slicing cucumbers, and then yellow squash and zucchini. And we also have a little bit of this and that and everything, because being just around the corner from Chicago, we do have a fair number of market growers that make a living off of raising here in Southwest Michigan and then going into Chicago farmers markets and selling there. And we also have that tourist trade that comes out of Chicago on the weekends and stops at a lot of our markets up and down the west coast of Michigan. But the station here, we do trials annually. We don't do everything every year. The main trials that we do are peppers, tomatoes, zucchini, yellow squash, and slicing cucumbers. And this past year, 2020, is the year that we did tomatoes, and you'd see that, peppers, and you'll see that in another presentation. But this is the presentation on the zucchini and yellow squash. These are the entries that were in the trial this year. There's only one yellow squash, and that was Blonde Beauty. It was not included in any of the statistical analysis. It was excluded, and only the zucchini trials, zucchini entries were included in the statistical analysis. Yellow squash is so much different than zucchini. It's not fair to lump them together, even though the plants grow similarly. The yield is not always the same, and the grades are not always the same. So it's not fair to compare them to one another. Used to be years ago, I would have more entries into this trial, but lately we only get about 9 or 10 or 12 entries. And so it must be that seed companies are not emphasizing development of these species as much as they were doing it in the past. And so these, like I said, these are the entries that were included. And I want to direct you to the Midwest Vegetable Trial report that's online, so you can actually see more of what this trial is about and more of what other trials are also about. Fertilizer is the PK and magnesium were added based on a soil test that was done. Rarely do we ever have to add any phosphorus to our soils. We have had years and years of triple 19 added to this site prior to the university acquiring it and using it as a research station. So it's not very often we need to add any phosphorus. Routinely, we add anywhere between 100 and 150 pounds per acre of potassium necessary. And then lately, we've been adding the 25 pounds of 95% sulfur. And our sites are very sandy, so that we also add 4 pounds of boron per acre just on an annual basis. Really don't do a soil test on either the sulfur or the boron. We just know by experience that they need to be added. Nitrogen was added based on just the needs of the crop. And again, routinely, this crop needs about 80 pounds of nitrogen per acre. And the nitrogen was added as a pre-plant, partly as a pre-plant, but the rest of it was added through the drip. And all the potassium, sulfur, and boron were added as a pre-plant as well. So, all right, planting date for this trial was direct seeded May 27th, which is the typical time for me to start these trials. A lot of our commercial growers will start their plantings probably May 10th or so, just to get them in earlier. These are on 5.5 foot centers, raised bed. drip irrigation 2 feet between plants in the bed, which amounted to about 4,000 plants to the acre. And harvest date wise, we had 12 times between July 6th and July 31st, basically every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Friday harvests were a little bit tighter because we don't harvest on the weekend. And so we were actually get smaller fruit probably on Fridays. And then the large, so we don't have overly large fruit by Monday. So these again are the entries along with the yield data based on the highest yielding entry first. And as you see from the bottom line here, that there was no significant difference statistically between any of the entries. Again, Blonde Beauty here was not uh, part of the statistical analysis, but all the zucchinis were statistically similar in total yield. They did, however, vary in the small, medium, and large category. Small was up to 6 inches. Yield medium was really 8 to 10, and then yield of large was 10 and above. And culls usually are misshapen fruit, oftentimes because of poor pollination, and sometimes because of potential mechanical damage. But occasionally you get some blossom end rot in there as well. But most of it is due to poor pollination. And a lot of that goes away later in the season when the bees actually find the planting and then they spend more time pollinating the fruit. So, all right, here's the entries for this past year. Number 5 up in the upper left-hand corner here is Spineless Beauty. That is the one that our growers prefer, and they would like to grow it all season long if they could. The big disadvantage Spineless Beauty has is that it has absolutely no virus tolerance. And all these other zucchini entries do have some amount of virus tolerance to them. So if I was suggesting varieties for a grower to plant, I would say it's probably okay to plant your Spineless Beauty for earlier harvests, but any harvest beyond 1st of August and into September, when aphid numbers increase and the movement of virus is greater, you're going to want some virus tolerance out there. Yes, the seed is more expensive, but not as expensive as losing a crop to virus, which I have seen in my years here. One of the reasons why our growers like Spineless Beauty is it's easy to pick, but it's also lighter in color. Some of these others, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, really all of them except number 7 here is a little bit lighter color. But all of these darker colored ones, if you don't handle them carefully, they show a lot of nicks on the skins. Whereas Spineless Beauty, being lighter in color, it can handle more of the nicks on the skin and not look as bad as these darker ones when it's nicked, because that underlying color shows up a lot better if on a dark fruited variety like these others. So that's probably the main reason why our growers like Spineless Beauty. It can be handled a bit more roughly, but it's also a very good yielder. So that's it for that. It's a very short trial. Other trials from previous years can be seen at the website for the Midwest Variety Trial Report. And if you have any questions on any of the reports that you see there that I have authored with my colleagues, so go ahead and contact me at the goldie@msu.edu email address there. Thank you very much for listening.